If you are here, it means you also expected Warlords of Draenor to be so much more than what it was, so stay with me for a while to discuss how this expansion could have been way better. Hello guys, and welcome to another video that has been rated W for Warcraft. Before you say anything, yes, I know this video comes many years late, but that's the beauty of what if videos, you can make them whenever you want. And I know that you also think Warlords wasn't as good as it should have been, because come on, who wasn't excited when WoD was announced? I remember being so freaking thrilled to see all those heroes from the old Horde. I grew up playing Warcraft games, and actually seeing those badass characters in World of Warcraft was so awesome to me. But at the moment, I didn't know what Blizzard wanted to do with the timeline, and I am not a huge fan of time traveling. I think it just messes with the plot and creates more confusion, but oh, look at me already rambling. Let's continue with the video and fix Warlords of Draenor once and for all. I have thought of 5 great topics that could have made Warlords Plot better without changing its ending and its outcome, because Warlords was the prelude to Legion, and Legion was really awesome, so we need to leave the ending pretty much the same. Better, of course. Plus, Blizzard did a pretty amazing job with alternate Draenor's plot, bringing the Lightbound into the table and the Magar orcs as a playable race. I just think that Warlords was a wasted opportunity to develop hundreds of amazing storylines. So let's review my ideas in order, shall we? Number 5. More of Doomhammer, both Orgrim and the weapon. Now, actually this isn't crucial for the plot, but Doomhammer was the character I wanted to see the most. However, his involvement within the expansion storyline was entirely sad. Orgrim only makes a few and brief appearances, even though Blizzard promised he would be a key character. In our timeline, Doomhammer was one of the main lieutenants of Blackhand, who was the first warchief of the Horde. It was Doomhammer himself who led the assault that destroyed the first Stormwind Keep, and it was him who killed Blackhand when he realized that the warchief was just a pawn of Gul'dan. Orgrim was the first true and great warchief the Horde ever had. He was badass, an outstanding strategist, and he was incredibly strong. He even killed Anduin Lothar in single combat, one of the greatest warriors the Alliance has ever seen. Alternate Doomhammer, like our original Orgrim, pretended to be all good with Blackhand and the Iron Horde and then betrays him. But unlike our awesome Doomhammer, who truly has an iron will, alternate Orgrim is, well, not so great, to say the least. He's just crushed by Blackhand effortlessly. But things just don't end there. The mighty Doomhammer, the weapon that gives Orgrim his name, was supposed to be a powerful hammer of prophecy that would be at the same time the doom and salvation of the orcs. So what happened with this amazing artifact during Warlords? Well, nothing happened. If you ever played Soul Reaver and Legacy of Kain Defiance, you are well aware of the paradox created by the existence of 2 Soul Reavers on the same timeline. It is just a mess. So honestly, I was expecting the Doomhammer to have some relevance in the story, but that didn't happen. I guess that Blizzard wanted to focus on another aspects of the lore, but hell, the Doomhammer is like one of the most important pieces of Warcraft lore. So what if Warlords was actually good? Let's say alternate Orgrim isn't just as good as our original Orgrim. Let's just leave that untouched. But if Orgrim wasn't to be an important character, then something had to be done with Hammer. I think that Blackhand should have wielded it against us, and as a core part of a questline we have to retrieve it and then use it for something important. Something relevant to the alternate orc's fate, like splitting the Iron Horde in 2 different factions, or maybe a weapon Khadgar needed to perform some powerful incantation. Number 4. More Botany lore. This expansion helped to expand the lore around Draenor's past, which was awesome to me. Let me explain all this briefly. During the origins of the planet, the plant life was so aggressive that it didn't allow any other thing to thrive. Agramar, the Titan, stumbled upon Draenor and decided to fix this, so he created Grond to destroy the creatures responsible for this uncontrolled growth, the Spore Mounds. They were 3: Sang, the fungi spore mound, Naanu, the jungle spore mound, and Botan, the forest spore mound. Grond killed Sang, whose body formed the Sangar Sea. By the way, I totally wanted to quest in the Sangar Sea, even though Bashir was a pain in the ass. Then he killed Naanu, forming the Tanaan jungle, but Botan managed to kill Grond, whose body formed Nagrand. You would think it formed Gorgrond, but no, it formed Nagrand. Grond's offspring, the Colossals, waged war against Botan for thousands of years, until they managed to kill the Spore Mound with an ultimate sacrifice. Botan's corpse then formed Farallon, a content that was sadly scrapped from WoD. I don't really know what Blizzard had planned for this region, but I must say I was quite disappointed when it was scrapped. All I wanted to see at the time was the Netherstorm in its pure and pristine state, and when I learned the story behind the Botany, I really wanted to discover Farallon. so I was even more so disappointed. Plus, if you really take a close look at the botany, they do not make sense at all in the expansion. They always bugged me. I was like, who are these guys and what's their deal? They are just there, making a small mess, being part of Draenor's backstory, and that's all. They just look pretty, and they are evil plant people who annoy you to death if you want to reach Exalted with a Laughing Skull clan. So what if Warlords was actually good? I think the expansion would have been way more interesting if the botany made any sense at all within the game. Not just a prop from old Draenor's lore. Just don't scrap Farallon and make it swarm with a real botany threat. Not just a random invasion to Stormwind because a huge centaur plant thing wanted to invade a city that he doesn't know. Making the botany a key part of the storyline would have been so easy, as you will see later on this video. Number 3. Ironhorde Frostwolves. Now, this one I personally don't like, mostly because I love the Frostwolves and I think they are the best clan ever and they should rule the entire universe. In any case, even I have to admit that Ironhorde Frostwolves would have made things way more interesting. One of the awesome things about WoD was how some events turned out differently in the alternate timeline. Durotan, the clan's chieftain, was one of the warlords to reject Fel magic in the original timeline. If you think about it, Durotan could have just sided with the Iron Horde because he believes in true Orcish strength. So why didn't Garrosh reach him first? The Frostwolf warlord would have joined Hellscream in a heartbeat. My only theory about this is that Hellscream just hates the Frostwolves, which is really stupid if you think about it. But back to the Frostwolves. Why did Durotan even trust us? During Warlords Plot, green-skinned orcs tainted by the Fel. It doesn't make any sense. Can you imagine how bittersweet and deep the storyline would have been with Thrall having to face the alternate version of his own father? So what if Warlords was any good? Well, the expansion would have been fine without this change, and I totally understand why we sided with the Frostwolves and why they didn't like the Iron Horde. I put this idea on the 3rd place because I think it would have been incredibly interesting, adding a lot of depth to the game plot. And I know what you're thinking now, if we don't get to side with the Frostwolves during the Draenor campaign, which would have been the Horde's faction? Well, how about siding with, I don't know, maybe the Storm Reaver clan? I know it wasn't created yet, but let's not get ahead of things. Let's go to number 2, Bronze and Infinite Dragons. My friends, this should have been number 1. Because Warlords was the perfect expansion to bring the origin of the Infinite Dragonflight. Because we all know that the Infinites are the corrupted version of the Bronze Dragons. This entire expansion was about time traveling, so why don't focus on the Bronze Dragons and the Infinite Dragons, who are entities capable of time traveling and witnessing the past, the present and the future whenever they want to. In fact, Warlords owes its existence to a Bronze Dragon by the name of Kairos. As you may recall, when Garrosh was defeated at the end of Mists of Pandaria, he was caged and waiting for his trial, but this Kairos guy helped him escape, and it was the dragon's plan, not Garrosh's, to create a new horde. And Kairos didn't want just one new horde, but an infinite number of hordes across an infinite number of universes. As he says, I would be infinite. I honestly thought that Kairos would be the first infinite dragon, but that wasn't it. Garrosh, being all angry with life and everyone else, didn't quite like the idea, so he backstabbed his savior. Now, even though I don't like Garrosh at all, I totally agree with what he did. It is important to note that Kairos wasn't working for the Infinite Dragonflight. In fact, they decided to help him after everything happened. But then again, the Infinites had like zero influence and impact in the storyline during this expansion. Throughout all this game, Blizzard never explained the true origin of the Infinites, and this was the perfect opportunity that was just wasted, thrown to the trash can. Yes, maybe during Cataclysm they told us that at some point of history, the old gods corrupted Nosdormu, the patriarch of the Bronze Dragons, and turned him into Murozond, the new leader of the Infinite Dragons. But they never told us when this happened or what triggered Nosdormu's madness. So what if Warlords was any good? Let Kairos live, let him be the first Infinite, and let him have an important interaction with Nosdormu. Let the Infinite Dragons have a major impact on the storyline. Let them be one of the main antagonists. If Murozond's origin would have happened during Warlords, then the entire expansion would have been canon without a doubt. Nobody would even dare to say,
I think that WoD isn't canon.
Can you imagine that? The origin of the Infinites? Now I think that would have been so cool. It would have been the best way to fix Warlords if it weren't for my top 1 idea. Number 1, good guy Gul'dan. So, you all know Gul'dan's story. He is Darkness Incarnate, he sold the orcs to the Burning Legion, and many other atrocities more. However, at the beginning of Warlords, we save his life, and he becomes a bad guy once again. The story just repeats itself. And as I said when I talked about the Frostwolves, there were many things that turned out differently during this timeline. So why things weren't different with Gul'dan? If you think about it, the only important thing that happened during Warlords, at least until recently with the Lightbound, was the return of Gul'dan. Warlords was the prelude to Legion. And that was it. Without alternate Gul'dan, there would be no Legion expansion at all, because he's the one who opened the gates for the Burning Legion to invade Azeroth yet another time. So what if Warlords would have been actually good? With a good guy Gul'dan, the expansion would have been completely different. No corrupted orcs again, no Burning Legion messing things up, no Archimon rehash, no Fell corruption all over again, no Burning Crusade 2.0. Instead of that, we focus entirely on Draenor, and the things Draenor has to offer. This way, the Warlords would have suffered many different fates, while Gul'dan and his followers create the Storm River clan and side with us to help us stop the Iron Horde. After we saved him at the beginning of the expansion, he realizes that there is no future in Fell magic. He realizes that serving the Legion only brought him more pain and failure. This time, he didn't fail the Legion, instead the Legion failed him. He had Fell magic at his disposal, and a bunch of uncorrupted orcs destroyed him. So imagine how all these events would have turned out. Instead of drinking the fell blood of Manoroth, the Bleeding Hollows and Kilrog would become possessed by the Botani, who are trying to bring all the Spore Mounts back to life. This would bring the Botani as major antagonists, actually being a dangerous threat to all of us. At the south, we would help the Arakoa take down the Shatterhand orcs, and then they backstab us as they find a way to revert their curse, maybe with Fell magic, so we can mess up things with the Fell a little bit during this expansion. Another cool idea, and this adds to the development of the Infinite Dragonflight, maybe the Frostwolves and the Thunderlords become enslaved by the Infinites, and that is how we deal with Kairos. In the end, the Warsong and the Frostwolf would still end up joining the good guys because it would be their only chance for salvation. Then, reaching the end of the expansion, Gul'dan wants to help us save the day, and all the answers to save Draenor resides at our very own Outland. So Gul'dan comes with us in a very long questline to see for himself what would have happened to his world if he had actually served the Legion. Maybe after a long ascension to the hand of Gul'dan, that massive volcano that lies at the center of our original Shadow Moon Valley, he becomes possessed by original Gul'dan's spirit. If you recall, it lies torn apart at the center of Shadow Moon Valley. Now that Darkness Incarnate has his body back, he believes this is a golden opportunity to redeem himself with the Legion, so he returns with us to alternate Draenor without us actually knowing that he is possessed, and once we are back at alternate Draenor, he makes a huge Fell mess. If you ask me, this would have been an awesome plot twist and a great way to bring Gul'dan back. Not just, hey, this is alternate Gul'dan, he is evil too! Because Warlord's only purpose was to bring Gul'dan back to the story. So by the end of the expansion, we would have to fight this possessed alternate original Gul'dan, but he manages to escape and Khadgar goes after him just like Warlords ended. Gul'dan would come to Azeroth, running away from the Archmage, and he would find a way to unlock every sigil within the Tomb of Sargeras. With the same outcome, the Legion expansion could still take place and still be so awesome. But of course, Warlords would have made way more sense too. So what do you think, guys? How would you fix this expansion? Personally, I would have liked something without all the time traveling thing, but that was the expansion main theme, so let's roll with the punches. I still can't understand why a time traveling themed expansion didn't have the Infinite Dragons and the Bronze Dragons as main characters. I had other minor ideas like making Shatrath and Karabor actual raids or dungeons, or to make the Sangar Sea a real zone, but that's nothing new. We all wanted that. In fact, I wanted to make this video not a collection of scrapped content, but instead bringing new ideas to the table that could have made the expansion way better. So any insight, guys? How would you fix Warlords lore? What did you hate and what did you love about Warlords beside garrisons? Please feel free to tell me in the comments. See you next time with more content rated W for Warcraft.